Hello and welcome to Yerushalmi Peah, Daf Tes Zayin. It's exciting. We are finishing the first parak and going to the second parak, which talks about the things that interrupt between one field to another, which we'll talk about today. Be'ezer Hashem, the source for that. So I wanted to start off with one thing from the first parak, and that is the following. There's machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi and Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi says that it's common for poor people to be able to borrow money, and so therefore he doesn't. Therefore, he puts a knas on them. Ayin Sham the Gemara, and Rebbe says it's not common for poor people to be able to borrow money. So, what's this machlokas mean? It's a mitzias. Could poor people borrow money or not? So, if you think about it logically, many poor people, as the Pnei Moshe explains, no one wants to give them credit because they're afraid. Well, you're poor, you're not going to be able to pay it back. So, it very well could be that Yehuda HaNasi knew that he was a Baal Tzedakah, and he dealt with a lot of people, and he saw that yes, it's true that many people are not going to logically want to give credit to a poor person. However, there's a pasuk in Kesef Talvez Ami, which doesn't mean to be stupid, but the Torah says that it's an extra mitzvah, as many of the Rishonim and the Chinuch explain, because normally a person doesn't want to lend out money. And so, therefore, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi held that the reality is that there are many people that do choose to do that mitzvah and trust, whereas Rebbe held that the reality is that people hold back, and the truth is that a person has to be careful and not lend money in a time when he doesn't think he's going to get paid back, and that's why it's considered tzedakah to lend to somebody who's poor. So it's a hard balance between wanting to do a mitzvah but also being prudent. But basically, I have a Kabbalah from our Rebbe, Asher Rubenstein Zatzal, who basically said, and he was someone that lent a lot of his money, but he also was always careful to do it in a legal way where there were people that were co-signers that would be able to pay back, and there was an understanding about what the terms and conditions were. And so you could be generous and be a kind person, but you could also be foolish, and that's not what Hashem wants from us. Moving on to Parak Beis is a very interesting thing. The Gemara says, how do I know that you can't give Peah from one field to the next? Meaning, if you have a large field, it doesn't matter how large it is, you can give Peah in that one field. But if you have two fields that are interrupted by, like the Mishnah says, by a public road or by different things, rivers, etc. So you have to give an individual Peah for each of those fields according to their obligation. So the pasuk says, Sadcha. Okay, so let's explain this drasha a little bit. So first of all, again, it makes perfect sense that you can't give your Peah, because it's one thing if it's Meiser. So let's say I have money that I made, which, by the way, Meiser Ksafim is very different than the olden days, which most things were Meiser on your animals or produce or whatever. But anyway, so when it comes to money, it's dependent on the guy. So if a guy made $100,000 that year, it doesn't matter if it came from different sources. The point is, he still has to give his 10% or 20%, like we talked about earlier. But when it comes to the field, the poor people are coming to your field. So it's not fair to say, oh, yeah, you came to my field, and I really do owe Peah, but I already took off Peah in Pennsylvania. Well, how am I supposed to know that, right? So it makes sense that it has to be your field. But the Gra says a brilliant thing in the pasuk. The pasuk says, well, the kutzerchem is katsir artzachem, when you gather in your produce, which artzachem is mashma, all your fields, which seems to say that you can take off a Peah for each of them. Then the pasuk clarifies, lo sechala paas sadcha. Each field should be looked at individually. So that says the Gemara, that's what's going on. And the Rosh Tzrilio points out a very brilliant thing, which is that, wait a minute, the Gemara above used this pasuk sadcha to darshan that even trees are obligated in Peah. So what's going on over here? So he answers two answers. One of them is that actually this pasuk is found in Vayikra Yud Tes, and the same time also in Vayikra Chav Gimel. So those two psukim could be darshan in two different ways. And also there's another sheet in the Gemara that we had earlier on Daf Yud Gimel that says that in the Ozada print that actually we learn out a different drasha from trees, for a different pasuk. So either way, we have you covered. The point is, we learn through drashas of Chazal, they're not just arbitrary, like the Torah Tzmima, like many of the other Mefarshim explain. There's a brilliance in how the Torah formulates itself, and we can learn so much by just delving into it deeper of how the pasuk says sadcha, and therefore clarifies exactly how it should happen, and it makes sense logically as well to us. We can understand the mitzvah even more about how, if I have a field here, people need to be able to come to my field and expect to be able to get money from that field and not be sent around to different places because I'm putting Peah for all the fields that I own in one specific location. Have a great day.